Hey, everybody, welcome back. My name is Ryan with Service Autopilot. Today I'm joined by Scott Howard. He's been around for a long time. You probably already know him, but just in case you don't, I'll let him introduce himself here in just a second. But today we're going to go through the team app. I wanted to know a little bit more about it. We've made some changes recently that I think are pretty cool. I figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride. So, with that said, Scott, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Now, like I was saying before we jump into it today, if anybody doesn't know who you are yet, what's your journey been like to get where you are today here with Service Autopilot? Because it's quite a ride.
Yeah, so I'll start with just the Service Autopilot side. I've been with Service Autopilot almost 15 years. October will be 15 years. Joined Service Autopilot back October 1st, 2010. And I wore just about every hat that you can wear except for actual coding. Well, I've done a little bit of coding. Actually, we used to build websites. And so I used to build websites for Service Autopilot. We don't do that anymore. But anyway, done that. I did QuickBooks support. I did regular support. I've done training. I've helped out with QA. I've actually trained sales guys. I've actually done sales. I've done a lot of stuff. So anyway, it's been fun. It's been great. Best company I've ever worked for in my life. Kind of what got me started looking at software is I used to be in software a long time ago. After I got out of the Navy, I used to be in the Navy right out of high school, joined the Navy. I got to thinking after I got out of the Navy, well, what is it that I really want to do? Because everything I did in the Navy was top secret because I used to hunt submarines from an airplane. And so I couldn't, it's hard to translate that kind of that job description into civilian life, hunting submarines. It's all like top secret stuff, that you got to know. So anyway, I kind of tailored my resume to technology because I had to learn electronics and all kinds of stuff because we had millions of dollars worth of electronics on the planes. And so I got a job at a software company. And so that interested me. But then the other side of it was I just didn't want to work for just any software company because I have other interests. I grew up on a farm. I used to do lawn care landscaping growing up, used to mow yards, mow cemeteries. I used to do some commercial cleaning, even as a teenager, just kind of that service industry mentality. And so I was really thinking about and trying to figure out like what I want to do. When it came time to look for a job again, right before Service Autopilot, I was like, okay, well, I got software. I love helping people, and I love just work, just regular work, just like doing the service industry type work. And I found Service Autopilot. It kind of landed in my lap. So anyway, that's kind of what got me here. And yeah, it's been a fun ride. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, quite a wild ride, man. Quite a
Yeah,
wild ride.
it's been fun though.
So let's talk about the team app, right? I guess really before we get into the nitty gritty of the app, what are some of the common challenges that you see that the team app sort of solves?
All right. So the team app, one of the main things is just time tracking. Just really being able to tell like when your employees got to a job site or when they're driving to a job site or when they're taking lunch, when they're taking breaks, different things like that. So the time tracking is really a big challenge to a lot of companies, and the team app does a great job solving that problem. The other thing is accountability. With time tracking comes accountability because then like when they got there, that kind of thing. We also have GPS for accountability that's built into the team app. So when someone is logged into the team app, you can actually track where they're located on the map. So, and that's in the main system. So I could be like an ops guy back in the main system monitoring the dispatch board, for instance. And I could bring up the map and tell where my guys have been on the map, just simply because they've got it on and they've got it logged in. So I could tell that. So that'll help with that accountability. I can also correlate where they've been on the GPS waypoints, basically on the map. I can coordinate that because it's date and time stamped. Each point that's on the map has a date and time stamp and a coordinates on it. And I can say, hey, you know what? They're saying they clocked in at this time, but does their location also match the time that they're saying? And so I could go up and I could click on the location at that spot that they say they were and see if they were actually there. I mean, we're all human and humans make mistakes and stuff. And so sometimes I've heard stories where people would clock in early, just trying to get credit for being there. And then like the manager or whoever's in charge of them, they would go and look at their GPS location and figure out that, oh, yeah, they weren't really there. They were clocking in early. They said they were there, but yet they were over here, at a different location. So that's actually pretty cool. So really, time tracking, accountability. Another thing is job costing. Just as a business, you can actually track your labor based on the time that your guys are driving and
Mhm.
or at the job site. And so that's another great, huge benefit, because if you know what your dollars per man hour needs to be, then you can compare what it needs to be with what it actually is based on how much time and how much labor you're spending, whether it's productive time or non-productive time. You can tell easily, like what's going on. That's another huge benefit that it solves.
Yeah, that's super important for profitability.
Yes.
So I guess my next question before we jump into actually looking at the app is how easy is the app? Like if I wanted to roll this out to my team, is that
hmm
something that is like, is there a big technical hurdle for that? Like, is it pretty easy to get a hold of? I'd imagine we designed it to be fairly user friendly, but I'll let you. You're the expert, so you tell me.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, honestly, it's pretty intuitive. I'll bring it up here in a minute, but it's got like a map centric view that's by default when you first log in. So that way, if I've already got crews dispatch, the jobs dispatch for these crews, and I've got them out in the field, when they first log into the app, they'll immediately see their first job. It'll ask them to clock in for the day. So that'll be their daily clock in, and then it has their individual job clock ins after they're clocked in for the day. Then they clock into their first job. But basically, once they clock in, it just says start day on the bottom of the screen. You just hit that. That clocks them in for the day, and then they just start driving to their first location. And once they get there, they'll start that job, and it'll start tracking the time on that one. And it's very evident. You'll see it in a minute, but the map view basically shows you where your first property is. So that way you can see it on a map. And then you also have details down below that, which just gives you like an idea of what you're going to be doing at that property once you get there. And it'll show both services and products, both. We also have chemical tracking as well. That's within the team app now, but that's another big benefit too, that we can, any kind of chemical companies, they can track it in there. There's also a list view. So if anybody has been using the older, or what we call the legacy app, the list view will look very similar. It'll just basically put your jobs in the order that you have them routed, and it'll put them in that order in list view, so that if you want to look at them that way instead of the map centric type view, then you can just see them in a list. And then the top one will be the first one you need to go to, and the second one will be the second one, and so on and so forth. And so there's a variety of ways that you can look at it depending on your preferences. I guess another big thing too is, as a company, you have the ability to limit and or give permissions to your field people. Those are called user roles and rights. And so if they're mobile only users, you can actually go into their mobile user roles and rights and actually give them permission to see and or do certain things, and or take away certain permissions, so they can't see and or do things. A lot of companies don't like their employees seeing pricing, for instance, for example. So you could turn pricing off but still see the job. And so that's another big benefit, because you have that
Okay.
flexibility to be able to let them see or not see certain things, give them permission to do things.
Well, sweet. Yeah, that's one of the questions I had was depending on
hmm
how much you want to share, you can. So that's super good to know. So let's take a peek at the app. Can
Okay.
you kind of walk me through that sort of, I guess, start of the day, and we can kind of see what that morning routine is going to look like?
Okay. All right. So this is what they'll see as soon as they log in. I've already got I think 7 jobs dispatched. You'll notice there, I was mentioning a minute ago at the very top, it has map and then it has list. And so, can you see my cursor?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm circling map right now. If I click on list, this is what my list view looks like. And so, I've only got one job out there. I thought I had multiple jobs. But anyway, yeah, you can tell it's not started. It's a 20-minute job. Um, it just gives a little bit of information for it. And then I could go back to map view and actually see where that job is located on the map. And then this gives me information down here about this property. Down here at the very bottom, this is where I would actually clock in for the day. So we have kind of 2 different clock ins. You have your daily clock ins, which would clock you in for the day or clock you out for the day. and then you have your breaks, that kind of thing. If you allow for breaks as in lunch or just like a break, that would be a part of this kind of clock in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and clock in. So I'm just going to hit start day. It takes me to my team. Okay. So in other words, who is with me? Notice how I could edit my team. This is also something that's a roll and a write. Like you don't have, like everybody may not have that ability, but I've got all of it turned on in mine. So if I'm happy with my team, I could do that, or I could just edit it and just put somebody else on there, take somebody off. It just tells you who you are. And then I'll just hit continue. Okay. And so now I'm clocked in for the day. I can see my job. At this point, once I am clocked in for the day, that's usually when you would go ahead and just start driving. Now, obviously, some companies, they would have to load their vehicle and make sure they've got all their equipment and make sure they've got, all their stuff. And so if you are doing that, there's actually up here in menu, which I don't know if this job is going to have it or not, but under menu, one second, I'm trying to click on it right now. There's actually what's called a load list. If I had any products, and products meaning like materials on this job, I could click load list. It would show a whole list of everything I need to take with me today. Okay. Some people even put their equipment in the product list. So that way, if they need to, show their guys, hey, don't forget to take this piece of equipment. Don't forget to take these materials with you, or we call them products in Service Autopilot. Same thing.
Yep.
But basically, don't forget to take this stuff with you. That all shows up on the load list. So after they clock in for the day, they load their vehicle up, and then they take off. Okay, then they start driving to their first job. Once they get to their first job, you've got your little start work at job site down here. And okay, and let's look at this since I'm clocked in now. Let's look at the list view too, just so you get a quick look at that. And so see how it says not started. I could
Oh, hey,
click
yeah.
on this and actually start the job there, or I could just go back to map view and I'll just hit the start work at job site down here at the bottom. You see the green bar at the bottom? Click
Yeah.
on
And
that.
will that kind of, so you're clocked in already, so it's tracking your travel time, I imagine.
Yes,
Once
it
you get
automatically
there and
tracks
you
the
say
travel.
you're working on it. Okay.
Yep. It's tracking the travel time as soon as I clock in. So it kind of assumes that, that you've got a little bit to do, but then you're going to start driving pretty soon after you clock in. Okay.
Yep. Sweet.
I could take pictures if I wanted to here, or I could see attachments. So I don't have any attachments on this job, but let's just say that back in the main system, I wanted to upload, let's just call it a site map. Okay. Especially landscaping companies, they use site maps a lot. They'll do like an aerial photo or satellite view of a property, and then they'll annotate different pieces of that property. They'll say, hey, over here's the shrub bed, or here's a mulch bed. Over here's where flowers are going to go. Over here's where trees need to be trimmed, or whatever. And they'll basically annotate this picture, and then they'll save it and upload it into the job itself, and then it'll show as an attachment right here under attachments. And then all the worker in the, out in the field has to do is just click on that attachment to be able to see that and see those attachments like that.
Yeah. On attachments, question there for you.
Yep.
It looks like you can add attachments here. Could you do like a before
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
after
You can
photo?
add attachments as well. Just click on that. Now I could pull up an attachment from my device. So whether I'm on a tablet or phone or whatever, I could do that from my photo library. I could actually take a picture with my camera, which I'll go ahead and do that. So this is behind my monitor here. There you go. I'll say use photo down here at the bottom. Okay. And now I just added that, to this job. This is visible not only on the app, but it's also visible back in the main system on the dispatch board. And it's also visible under mobile attachments on the client's account. So it'll
Oh,
stay there
okay.
forever unless you delete it.
Yeah. So those before and after photos, they can like really see what it
Exactly.
was. I
Yeah.
love that. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. If I had, let's see here, if I've got, let me hit done for a second. Sorry. There we go. All right. I'm clocked into this one now. Now I just took a picture over there, in that screen as I was clocking in. You also have a little camera icon here where I could take additional pictures if I needed to. Also, notice how you have this little gray bar right here. All that means is that I can actually expand this lower part to kind of cover up the map if I wanted to. And I would just do that. And so I just flipped it up. And now I can actually see, okay, when did I get there? When am I supposed to be done? versus,
Okay.
when I
Yeah.
actually got there. This is actually, just a little note about that. And then down here, asking about maintenance. This just says that I'm 3 minutes into a 20-minute job, basically. If I wanted to add additional services, again, that's a roll and a write. You don't have to turn that on, but you can have that turned on so your guys in the field could add additional services. Job history just means that when was the last time that I was there? Okay, back in October 2024. And then anything upcoming in the future. This will just tell me what I've got coming up in the future. This is actually a new feature. This didn't used to be in here. So this is actually a pretty cool feature because this allows you to see what you've done and then what's coming up next. Okay. If
Yeah, I
I
like
wanted
that
to
a
see
lot.
details on that, I can click on the little arrow there and it'll let me see more information here. This looks like a project, that was done at this property. Okay. At the top, I've got a little bit of more data up here. This is where I could actually add additional services here if I needed to. Hit cancel, go back. And then I could do the same thing here if I wanted to on upcoming jobs. Okay. And now if we scroll back down, if I had a picture uploaded of this particular property, you would be able to see that picture right here. So that's
Okay.
actually kind of nice because if I'm doing
Yeah.
maintenance, and let's say I've got a new crew leader and they've never been to this property before, they can map to it. The app will actually allow them to map to it. Just simply by clicking on the address right up here, it'll actually open the default mapping system, on your device, whether it's Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever you use on your device. It'll actually open that up and map you to it. In addition to that, though, if somebody had already uploaded a picture of that particular property in here, from a previous job, then I'd be able to see like the front of the property if I wanted to, a picture of it. And so that way I have no doubt that this is the right property I'm supposed to be going to.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that being helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
Sometimes whatever mapping app you use, like it'll say, "Oh, it's right here," but maybe it's like the next house or something like that.
Right. It's down the road or
Uh,
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So
so you have your crew driving around a neighborhood looking for a house,
yeah,
wasting time basically. You
exactly.
give them a
Yep.
picture of it. Yeah, it's the bright orange house. You can't
Yeah.
miss
Bright
it.
orange house with the shrubs
Yeah,
in the front or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, that's super cool. That's
Yeah.
hopefully they don't cut someone else's lawn for free.
That
you
actually
know,
happens more often than you think it would. Yeah. It actually happens quite a bit.
I mean,
Or
hey,
clean a
best
different
case
house. Like,
scenario.
yeah.
Oh, dude, best case scenario, right? Maybe they gain a client out of it.
Yeah.
But we try
Hopefully.
try to avoid those scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
that's super cool. Can you make it so the guys have to take a picture?
Yes. That's in user roles and rights.
Okay, sweet. That's
Yep.
good. All right.
Yep. And I mean, that's pretty much it as far as that goes. If I hit complete work down here, I can hit complete work and then that'll let me actually add a comment down here at the bottom. So, all right. Anyway, so in other words, they're asking me for some stuff. Hit the little paper airplane there, and then that'll just go ahead and send that comment to the main system. It actually sends it to the dispatch board right underneath this job. And then, and then I'm good to go. So I can hit done. And it basically also, this is something else that allows you, this is a roll and a write thing as well. Like I could edit my time because I've got that turned on in my rolls and writes. So if I happen to accidentally clock out too soon or clock out, clock out late or whatever, or forget to clock out, I can actually edit this time if you allow your employees to do that. Not everybody allows that, but that is something that you have the ability in your rolls and writes to do. And then here's my crew. And then I could go done right here, done. And now I'm complete on this particular job. Okay. So it's completed. If I did have another job, which unfortunately I thought I had more than one job here, but if I did have another job, I'd be able to hit the little arrow right here and be able to see my next job that I needed to go to. Okay. And then I would just go ahead and drive to my next job. As soon as you clock out of the job that you were just on, that's when the drive time automatically starts. And
Okay. Yeah.
and then you would drive to your next property, clock in the same way I just clocked into this one, make any comments or adjustments that I need to make. And then once I'm done with the work there, clock out of it and then move on to the next job. And you just keep doing that over and over and over until you're done with all your jobs for the day. if you happen to, I've got this little, sorry, I got this little thing on there. If you happen to need a break, so let's say a lunch break or whatever, you can click on the little coffee cup here at the top. And so I could go on break. Okay, so it's basically asking me, who's going on break right here. And then, Scott's going to take a break. And then Greg's going to take a break. And then Jeff is going to take a break. So if not everybody was going to go on break, then you wouldn't select them. But now these guys are on break. And then we take our break, 15-minute break or whatever, or lunch break, whatever it is. And then we're going to clock back in break, and just kind of go through this, like that. And now I'm off break. And then I would go back to work or clock back into the job or whatever I needed to do at that point. And then once I'm done for the day, I would just hit finish day. Any questions before
No, I mean, that gives me a pretty good overview of everything in the app. I don't think we have time necessarily to dive into everything in it.
Yeah,
maybe I pull you in for part 2 on that. But no, it's a really good overview.
Yeah, that's kind of the main operational stuff that most people would see every day. And then at the end of the day, you just hit finish day and that clocks you out for the day. So in other words, I would drive back to the office or drive back to wherever I started from and then hit finish day once I got there. Now in this case, okay, this is actually kind of a cool little thing. This is actually a form. So it's basically when you clock out for the day, equipment repair form. If there were any, and this is just a form that I've created. It's a random form that I kind of put on here. And so when I clock out for the day, this just reminds my guys that are out in the field, hey, if there's anything that needs to be repaired or any maintenance needed to be done on anything, go ahead and do that, and put your name.
Okay. Yeah, that's real
So,
helpful.
so it automatically pops up because I actually associated this form with this service. So it'll come up every time that I'm clocking out for the day. And I'll just say no here. And I'm not going to submit it. I'm not going to put everything in here because there's just way too much stuff. But anyway, that'd be a form that I do. And then notice that it says resume day. In other words, I'm clocked out right now. If I needed to resume, I could. But if I don't need to resume, I'll just go up here to menu and I would just log out for the day from there. So that's pretty much it.
Man, I love that. That's super
Yeah.
cool. So based on your experience training people, what do you see are some of the biggest benefits that people find when they use the team app?
Time tracking is one of the big things. So like if I were in closeout day view right now, if these jobs had actually got all completed here, let's just go ahead and complete them. Then I would be able to see like my start and end times automatically. One of the things, we'll let this finish running. I'll just explain it while it's running here. But basically, one of the things that is a big benefit is really just saving time in the office. Because if the guys are clocking their time correctly out in the field, then the people in the office don't have to manually put all that in. Because if you're trying to do time tracking and you're not using the mobile app, then you need to manually put in all those times. In other words, you're putting them in from a piece of paper. So essentially, if I were not, tracking on the mobile app, I would be putting in times here that would then show up on job costing and hourly jobs. It would calculate hourly, dollar amounts and so on and so forth. But with the mobile app, you don't have to put all that stuff in. It automatically just does it for you. So that's another big benefit to the office, in addition to, the guys out in the field being able to track their time and stuff.
I mean, if that's saving someone 15 minutes a day, I mean, that's over an hour, right? In a week.
Yeah.
I just brought up that sort of concept in another video I did. So that's very heavy on my mind. So that's super cool.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, 15 minutes is a very conservative number because we have some companies, they'll have, 600 jobs in a day. And if they weren't using the mobile app, they're going to be putting 600 time entries in a day. I mean, that would take probably the better part of a day, honestly. That would be a lot of time. And then you take the payroll of that person who's actually doing that simple data entry like that. I mean, that would more than pay for like all of your mobile users and that kind of thing, just because of how much time they're having to spend on just pure data entry stuff. So yeah, it's a huge benefit having the mobile app.
Awesome. All right, man. I know you got some other stuff to run off to, but one last question for you. Are there any features of the team app that you find really surprise people when they jump in there?
I think I think the nice thing, if you are a chemical company, that's actually something that's really nice. You can do chemical tracking in there, which actually brings up like your products and your application rates and your quantities of products and different things like that, and like what you used, what you didn't use. It has even temperature, wind speed, wind direction, that kind of thing in there as well. That's a really big one if you're a chemical company. If you're not a chemical company, I mean, honestly, just having the list and the map view is really nice. Being able to map to your properties, being able to easily just clock in and clock out. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's not a huge training curve. You know what I mean? Not a huge learning curve to it. Another cool thing that's really beneficial, I won't take time to look at it, but if you did go up here to employees, go into an individual employee profile, you can actually change the team map into Spanish if you have Spanish speaking people that are out in the field. So that way the team map will actually show up in Spanish. Um, and so that's another big
That's
benefit
super
as
helpful.
far as just kind of as a company, you know, if you have different cultures that are working in your company, then that's at least one way that you can kind of help out with that is Spanish. So those are probably the biggest things that I see.
Love that. All right, Scott. Well, hey, man, again, thanks for taking me through it today and letting me take everybody else on the ride with me because I figured it'd be beneficial to just
Sure.
share that while I'm
Yeah.
learning about it. So, hey, man, genuinely, I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure when I get to sit down and talk to you, even when we're recording. But, all right, man, I appreciate it. I'll let you get back to your day. And I hope everybody watching this enjoyed. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir. I've enjoyed it. Thank you, Ryan. Hope you have a great day.
You as well. Later, y'all.